Hello, friends. Today we're going to talk about something amazing. It's artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence means teaching a computer how to think and learn like a human. Do you ask your phone about the weather or play a smart game? Yep, that's AI in action. A robot is the body and AI is the brain. Sometimes they work together. This is ChatGPT. You can ask it anything, and it answers kindly and smartly. Just like a child learns from pictures and words, AI learns from data. It can play chess, win games, and learn from every experience. Some cars can drive themselves. AI watches the road and makes smart choices. Sometimes it makes mistakes, like putting a shoe instead of cheese on a pizza. In the future, we'll see smart schools, robot helpers, and even AI pets. When humans work together with AI, amazing things happen. Now you know what artificial intelligence is. See you next time with Dr. Binox. Blast off.
Why don't they teach this in school? There was a king who had a problem. Every time he went out into the forest, the trees made fun of him because he couldn't hunt. So the king made a rule that everyone in his kingdom must carry a bow and arrow, even the king's wife and kids. Everyone had to shoot an animal every day, and the king would take their offerings and eat them. One day, the king's son came running up behind him while he was taking a dump. "Dad, we have a problem." The king, wiping his hands on the grass, said, "What is it, son? We don't have time to talk right now. I'm busy getting ready for the big hunt tomorrow." The prince said, "But Dad, you don't understand. All the animals are laughing at us. They say we're just a bunch of monkeys with guns." The king got very angry and said, "I'll show them." He took his son's gun and shot a monkey that was hanging from a tree. Then he turned to his son and said, "See, I told you I'd show them." The prince looked at the dead monkey and said, "That's not the point, Dad. The point is we're all apes and they're laughing at us because we're trying to act like we're not. Why don't we just act like animals? We could climb trees and swing from vines. We could live in caves and make tools out of stone." The king thought about this for a moment and then said, "You know what, son? You might be onto something there. Let's go home and get the party started." And that's how the king learned to stop acting like a human and start acting like an animal.
Hey there, welcome back to our channel where we bring you the most amazing stories from all around the world. In today's video, we are going to share with you a touching story about appreciating who you are. It is not an ordinary tale, but rather one that will touch your heart and leave a lasting impression on your soul. So get ready to embark on a journey filled with emotion, self-discovery, and valuable life lessons. A young boy named Leo lived in a world where everyone seemed to have a special ability except him. All the children could perform extraordinary feats. Some could fly like birds, while others could talk to animals or even control the weather. Everyone was unique and had something special to offer except Leo. He couldn't do anything particularly amazing. He would sit by the riverbank day after day, watching the other children play their special abilities and feeling left out and unimportant. One day, Leo decided he had enough of feeling miserable. He wanted to find his special ability. He tried everything he could think of, but nothing seemed to work. Discouraged and upset, he sat on a nearby hill ready to give up. Suddenly, a wise old turtle approached him. "Why are you so sad?" she asked gently. Leo poured out his heart to the turtle, explaining how he felt ordinary and useless compared to the other children. The wise old turtle listened patiently, and when Leo was finished, she said, "My dear boy, everyone has a special ability. You just haven't discovered yours yet." She suggested that he visit the Oracle of the Woods, a mysterious and powerful being who lived deep in the forest. The Oracle would be able to help him discover his true potential. Although nervous, Leo decided to follow the turtle's advice. He thanked her for her help and set off into the woods. After walking for a while, he came across a clearing and saw a majestic white horse drinking from a stream. The horse was unlike any horse he had ever seen before. It seemed almost magical. As Leo stood there admiring the horse, it suddenly spoke. "I have been expecting you, Leo," it said. "The oracle has sent me to guide you to her." Overjoyed, Leo jumped onto the horse's back and they raced deeper into the forest. Finally, they arrived at a clearing where an old woman with twinkling eyes and flowing white hair sat on a stone. "You must be Leo," she said with a smile. "I am the Oracle of the Woods." Leo nodded shyly and the Oracle beckoned for him to sit beside her. "Tell me, Leo, why have you come to see me?" she asked. Leo explained his situation, how he felt ordinary and different from the other children. "I want to discover my special ability," he said. The Oracle smiled knowingly. "Your special ability is not something you possess, Leo, it's something you are," she said. Confused, Leo shook his head. "I don't understand," he whispered. The Oracle closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "You are extraordinary, Leo. You are more than your perceived abilities. You are brave, kind, and compassionate." She opened her eyes and looked at him. "These are your strengths. These are what make you extraordinary." Leo still didn't understand. He wanted to do something amazing, not be someone ordinary. "But I want to do something extraordinary, like the other children," he insisted. The Oracle sighed. "Being ordinary is not bad, Leo. Sometimes it's good to be ordinary. You don't have to be different to be special. You are special just the way you are." She reached out and touched his hand. "You may not have a particular ability, but that doesn't mean you can't do anything. You can use your ordinary abilities in extraordinary ways." Leo thought about her words. He realized that he had been focusing on what he couldn't do rather than what he could. He had been comparing himself to others and feeling down about it. But maybe being ordinary wasn't so bad. Maybe he could do extraordinary things in an ordinary way. The Oracle smiled, seeing that he had understood. "You are right, Leo. You don't have to be different to be special. And even if you were different, it wouldn't make you happy if that's all you were focused on." Grateful for the Oracle's wisdom, Leo thanked her and prepared to return home. The white horse reappeared, and this time it was joined by a beautiful blue bird. "I have a message for you from the wise old turtle," the bird said. "She wants you to visit her again." Curious, Leo followed the bird to a nearby pond. There, to his surprise, he saw the wise old turtle sitting on a lily pad. "I've been expecting you, Leo," she said with a smile. Leo explained how the Oracle had helped him understand that he was special just the way he was. "That's wonderful, Leo," the wise old turtle replied, "but now it's time for you to go even deeper and understand that your ability may not be what you expected, but it's exactly what you needed." Confused, Leo tilted his head. "I don't understand," he admitted. The wise old turtle dipped her head into the water and emerged with a small fish in her mouth. "What does this fish need to live?" she asked. Without hesitation, Leo answered, "Water, food, and sunlight." "And what do you need to live?" the wise old turtle asked. Taking a moment to think, Leo replied, "I need friends, family, and kindness." The wise old turtle nodded. "Exactly, you need things that make you feel alive. That's your special ability. You have the ability to love and be loved." As she spoke, a group of small fish swam closer. "Can you see what these fish need?" the wise old turtle asked. Looking closely, Leo noticed that each fish had a tiny red dot on its tail. "They're bleeding," he exclaimed. The wise old turtle dipped her head into the water again and returned with a leaf. She placed it gently on the water, creating a small boat. "Go see who needs your help," she whispered. Hesitantly, Leo approached the fish. As he got closer, he saw that they were all trapped under a fallen branch. Working together, the fish managed to push the branch off them and free themselves. One of the fish swam over to Leo and gently nuzzled his hand. Overcome with emotion, Leo understood his ability wasn't to do something extraordinary. It was to be kind, helpful, and compassionate. It was to be an ordinary boy who made an extraordinary difference in the world. From that day on, Leo lived his life to the fullest. He didn't try to be someone extraordinary, but instead embraced his ordinary abilities and used them to help others. He made a conscious effort to notice the little things, the small acts of kindness, and the people who needed his help. He reached out to those who were different, those who felt like they didn't fit in, and those who were struggling. Leo's actions didn't go unnoticed. The other children saw how he treated the animals and the respect and admiration they received in return. They witnessed how he helped those in need and the gratitude that filled their hearts. Slowly but surely, the children began to understand that being ordinary wasn't bad. In fact, it was a gift. They realized that they didn't have to be different to be special. They could use their ordinary abilities in extraordinary ways. And so, the once envious children became friends with Leo. They played together, sharing their joys and supporting each other through tough times. They learned that true happiness didn't come from being extraordinary, but from being ordinary and kind. Leo's story spread throughout the land, touching the hearts of everyone who heard it. People realized that they didn't have to be perfect or have extraordinary abilities to make a difference in the world. They could start by simply being kind and helpful. As the years went by, Leo grew up with a sense of purpose. He knew that he didn't need superpowers to be a hero. He could be an ordinary boy who did extraordinary things with his heart. And so he continued to help others, spreading kindness and compassion wherever he went. And that, dear friends, is the story of Leo, the boy who didn't have a special ability, but who discovered that being ordinary was extraordinary. Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey. We hope that Leo's story has touched your heart and reminded you of the importance of embracing who you are. Remember, you don't have to be extraordinary to be special. Sometimes being ordinary is the greatest ability of all. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you never miss out on our enchanting tales. Until next time, keep believing in the magic of stories and the power of being yourself. Have a wonderful day.
This is the most precious metal in the world. It's also the rarest. Can you name that metal? Gold. You got it right. But what if I told you that this shiny treasure was actually a little worm struggling to survive in the harsh environment of a coral reef? Well, buckle up because today we're diving deep into the ocean to find out just how this lowly worm became the most precious and rare metal on the planet. Once upon a time in the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean, nestled amidst vibrant coral reefs and teeming with aquatic life, there existed a humble community of sand dollars. These weren't your average sand dollars, though. Oh no, they were the fluffiest sand dollars the world had ever seen. Their bodies were so densely packed with microscopic spines that they resembled a thick, luxurious carpet. And as they glided across the ocean floor, they left behind trails of shimmering gold dust, a testament to their unique composition. One day, a young sand dollar named Goldie set off on an adventure beyond the familiar confines of his home reef. He wanted to explore the world, but quickly discovered that the ocean was a big, scary place. Everywhere he turned, Goldie saw danger lurking. There were sea urchins with their sharp, pointy spines, jellyfish with their stinging cells, and sneaky moray eels ready to strike with their sharp teeth. Poor Goldie felt helpless, wishing he could just disappear into thin air. As he made his way through the dense seagrass meadows, Goldie came across a wise old sea turtle munching on some seagrass. With a heavy heart, Goldie poured out his worries to the wise creature. "Oh, great turtle," he said. "I want to see the world, but I'm too scared to venture out. What should I do?" The old sea turtle listened patiently, his ancient eyes twinkling with understanding. When Goldie was done, the turtle spoke in a voice that was as slow and steady as the ocean's tides. "Little sand dollar, it's natural to feel afraid, but fear not, for courage can be found within your own heart." Goldie looked at the turtle, puzzled. "But how, O wise one? How can I find courage in myself?" The sea turtle smiled, revealing a mouthful of pearly white teeth. "Close your eyes, my dear Goldie, and think of a place where you truly feel at peace." And so Goldie closed his eyes, and sure enough, as he focused on the familiar sights and sounds of his cozy reef, a sense of calm washed over him. When he opened his eyes, a determined glint shone within them. He thanked the wise old sea turtle and started back toward his home, feeling a newfound sense of confidence with every paddle of his tiny feet. Upon returning home, Goldie shared his experience with his fellow sand dollars, and they were all inspired by his tale. One particularly brave sand dollar, named Sandy, decided to embark on her own adventure. I'm going to explore the mysterious shipwreck, she announced to her friends, referring to an old sunken vessel that lay just beyond the reef, its shadowy silhouette a haunting sight against the vibrant coral. The other sand dollars gasped. Everyone knew the dangers that lurked within the shipwreck. It was said that a giant moray eel made its home there, and its gaping jaws were rumored to be filled with sharp teeth capable of crushing anything that dared enter its lair. Plus, the inside of the ship was pitch black, and who knew what other creatures might be hiding in the darkness? But Sandy was determined. She bid farewell to her friends and set off towards the ominous shipwreck, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. As she approached the shadowy hulk, Sandy's determination wavered. Memories of the eerie stories about the shipwreck flooded her mind, and she couldn't help but feel a surge of fear. Just then, a massive shadow loomed over her, blocking out the sunlight. And before she knew it, a pair of piercing yellow eyes stared directly at her. Paralyzed with fear, Sandy watched as a huge moray eel slithered towards her, its sharp teeth bared in a menacing grin. Thinking fast, she did the only thing she could. She wiggled her fluffy body, creating a cloud of shimmering gold dust that filled the water. The eel, taken aback by the sudden burst of light, retreated, giving Sandy the chance she needed to escape. Heart racing, she darted into the opening of the shipwreck, disappearing into the dark, dank interior. Inside, the darkness was absolute, and Sandy struggled to navigate the maze of broken planks and rusted chains. But she pressed on, determined to prove that even a lowly sand dollar could be as precious as gold. Suddenly, something rustled in the darkness ahead, and Sandy froze, her tiny heart hammering against her spine. Then, from the shadows emerged a pair of luminous green eyes, followed by the outline of a creature unlike any she'd ever seen before. It was a crab, its shell adorned with barnacles and seaweed, and it scuttled sideways toward her, its claws raised in a threatening gesture. "Who dares disturb me in my slumber?" it snapped, its voice a gravelly growl. Sandy, summoning all her courage, replied, "I'm sorry, Mr. Crab, but I couldn't help but wonder what secrets this old ship might hold. I never meant to intrude upon your sleep." The crab eyed Sandy suspiciously, then let out a low chuckle. "Well met, little sand dollar. I am the guardian crab, and this ship is my domain. Tell me, why do you seek the secrets of the deep?" Sandy hesitated, then poured out her tale, explaining her quest to discover the meaning of true worth. The crab listened intently, his many eyes gleaming with understanding when she finished. He spoke in a softer voice. "Little sand dollar, your journey has led you here for a reason. You see, in this forgotten ship, I guard a secret that could change the world." He gestured with a claw toward a small chest hidden beneath some old, decaying planks. Inside this chest lies a treasure more valuable than any jewel or gold coin. It's the key to understanding your true worth. With trembling hands, Sandy lifted the lid of the chest. Inside, nestled on a bed of velvet, was a single radiant pearl. It wasn't just any pearl, though. This one shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and as Sandy reached out to touch it, she felt a surge of warmth and happiness, unlike anything she'd ever known. The crab explained that this pearl was no ordinary gem. It was the embodiment of selflessness, bravery, and kindness, qualities that truly defined a hero. Sandy realized that the pearl wasn't just a treasure, it was a reflection of her own journey and the values she held dear. Overcoming her fears and helping others brought her closer to understanding her own worth. With the pearl in hand, Sandy emerged from the shipwreck, its secrets now revealed to her. Back on the familiar turf of her home reef, Sandy shared her discovery with her fellow sand dollars, including her journey through the treacherous waters and the valuable lesson she learned from the enigmatic crab. The other sand dollars listened in awe as she described the glowing pearl and the profound sense of self-worth it represented. Goldie, who had set off on the first adventure that inspired Sandy, was among those gathered around. He watched her with admiration, recognizing the strength and courage she had shown. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the reef, a profound silence fell over the gathering. Each sand dollar pondered Sandy's tale, reflecting on the meaning of true worth and the importance of helping others. Finally, Goldie, his heart filled with gratitude, spoke up. "Sandy, your journey has taught us all a valuable lesson. We may not have the power to control the world around us, but we can control our own hearts and the choices we make. It's these choices, these acts of kindness and bravery, that truly define our worth. A chorus of agreement echoed through the reef as the other sand dollars nodded, realizing the depth of Goldie's words. In that moment, they understood that true worth wasn't measured in size, shape, or material possessions, but in the qualities that made them not just sand dollars, but kind, brave, helpful friends. From that day forward, the sand dollars of the reef lived by these words. They looked out for each other, offering help and support whenever it was needed. And whenever one of them faced a challenge, they remembered Sandy's journey and the precious pearl that symbolized their shared values. So, if you're ever feeling down and need a reminder of your own worth, remember the story of the sand dollars and the pearl that glowed brighter than any gold, because sometimes the most precious treasures aren't made of metal or jewels, but of the values and qualities that make us who we are.
Deep in the heart of the Whispering Woods lived a little firefly named Flicker. Now Flicker was no ordinary firefly. His glow was a brilliant shade of blue, the rarest color in all of Firefly Glen. And every night he would zoom through the forest, showing off his spectacular light to anyone who'd watch. One evening, while flying past the old oak tree, Flicker saw a group of fireflies gathered together. Their lights were a dull yellow, and they all seemed very upset. "What's wrong?" asked Flicker. A kind older firefly named Celeste sighed and answered, "We're worried about our friend Luna. She used to have the most beautiful silver glow, but now her light is fading away." Flicker flew over to Luna, who was sitting on a leaf, looking very sad. "Don't cry, Luna," said Flicker. "I'll help you make your light shine again." But when he got close, he noticed that her glow wasn't just dim. It was actually changing colors, flickering from yellow to orange to red. And with each flash, a part of her antenna would go numb. "I don't want to change colors," Luna cried. "I like being silver. It's unique. If I turn yellow like everyone else, I'll be just like them." "But why are you changing colors in the first place?" asked Flicker. Luna sniffled. "I'm scared. Every night I get so worried about showing off my light that by the time I get to the Firefly Festival, my glow starts to flicker, and then it changes colors. And this year, I might not even be able to fly." The thought of missing the Firefly Festival made Luna even more upset. Every year, all the fireflies would gather in the center of the forest to show off their spectacular lights. It was the most exciting event of the year, except for one little problem. The forest was very big, and the only way to get to the festival was by flying through the dark, scary blackthorn thicket. For some fireflies, the journey was easy, but for others, it was terrifying. The bushes were prickly, and the shadows were deep, and there were always strange, scary noises coming from the trees. Most fireflies didn't want to go through the thicket alone, so they'd wait until a group had gathered, and then they'd all fly together, making the journey safer for everyone. But this year, Luna was so worried she didn't want to go at all, and with each passing day, her light grew dimmer. Seeing how upset she was, Flicker knew he had to help. The next day, he went to see an elder to ask for advice. "What should I do?" he asked. "My friend is scared and her light is changing colors." The elder smiled and said, "It sounds like she needs to learn the secret of the blue moon butterflies." "Blue moon butterflies," said Flicker, "but they're just a myth. No one has ever seen one. That's because they only appear when the moon is blue," the elder said with a wink. "And they carry the rarest, most beautiful colors imaginable." Flicker wasn't sure if he believed the butterflies were real, but he had nothing to lose. So the next night, instead of going straight to the festival, he flew to the blackthorn thicket. He waited, and sure enough, as the moon passed overhead, 2 blue butterflies appeared. They fluttered past him, leaving trails of sparkling blue dust in their wake. At first, Flicker was too stunned to do anything, but then he remembered Luna. Taking a deep breath, he followed the butterflies. They led him on a merry chase through the thicket. Up, over and around. Finally they landed on a mushroom. And Flicker could see why. The entire forest floor was covered with sparkling blue light. As soon as Luna saw the beautiful glow, her spirits lifted. She flew over to Flicker and asked, "How did you find this place? I've never seen anything like it." "It's the blue moon butterflies," said Flicker. "They only appear once a year, and they bring the rarest colors to those who are brave enough to follow them." One of the butterflies fluttered over to Luna and brushed against her antenna. Suddenly, her whole body began to glow with a beautiful blue light. She was more beautiful than she had ever been before. Carefully, she flew back to the elder. "Look, I did it," she cried. "I found the blue moon butterflies, and I have the most beautiful blue light in the whole forest." The elder smiled and said, "You don't need to be the brightest or rarest color to be the most beautiful, Luna. You just need to be yourself." From that day on, Luna wasn't afraid to show off her unique silver glow. And every year, she and Flicker would lead the other fireflies through the thicket, helping them to believe in themselves and their own inner light. The end.
It's basically Zootopia, but in space. Like the entire universe is this big city, and different animals from different planets come together to live in this big city. And there's a bunch of stuff that goes on. You know, they have like little intergalactic flights between planets. And you know, they can travel really fast by just stepping onto these glowing blue portals. But every once in a while, like once every few hundred years, these portals will start to shut down. And when the portals start shutting down, it means that the different species can no longer get together and communicate and trade and do all the things that they do. And it causes a bunch of problems. And so there are these two characters, a fox and a rabbit, who decide that they're gonna go on an adventure across the galaxy to fix the portals. And along the way, they meet a bunch of interesting characters and learn about the history of the universe and stuff like that. That's kind of what the movie's about. So I was thinking about this and I was like, man, I wish I could make a short film like this because I love this idea. And then I realized, hey, I don't need to make a short film. I can make a 3D short with Blender. So that's what we're doing today. We're making a 3D Pixar style short with just animals. Animals in space. Animals in space. Animals in space. Okay. So let's start by modeling a little mouse. I started out by giving the mouse a big head and like disproportionately small body, just to be funny. And then I gave him little tiny ears and a little tail. And then I gave him some big old webbed feet because he is a space mouse. He's a space mouse. Okay, next we're gonna model a little bird. I decided to give this bird kind of a retro-futuristic vibe, like a 50s version of what a futuristic bird would look like. So I gave him like a little jetpack, and then I gave him a little hat, and then I gave him a little goggles, and then I gave him a little tail that kind of sticks out behind him. This bird is super cute. Look at this little guy. He's so cute. Next, we're gonna model an otter. Otters are really cute. So I just gave him like a little spacesuit with a little helmet. And then I gave him a little jetpack too, just 'cause I thought it would be funny if all the animals had jetpacks. Then I gave him a little tail that kind of curls up behind him. I think otters are really underrated as like cool animals. Like people always talk about like dogs and cats and rabbits and stuff like that. But otters are really cool too. Otters are really cool. Otters are really cool. Okay. Next, we're going to model a space cat. Space cats are pretty similar to regular cats, except they have tails that are like twice the length of their body. They also have like a little extra pointy ears. And then of course, we have to give them a little spacesuit and a little helmet. Gotta have those. And then I gave him a little jetpack too. These animals are getting jetpacks. Alright. So now we've got 4 animals ready to go. I am gone. Nah, go ahead and create a little city street scene and then we'll get these animals into it. Alright? Here's the scene I created. It's not much, but it'll work for now. So I went ahead and added a little particle system to emit these animals into the world. And here's how it turned out. I think it's so cute. There's so many animals running around. There's like birds flying through the air. There's like mice running on the ground. There's a cat like climbing up a building. It's so cute. Here it is, one more time. So I think this would be a really cute Pixar short. Like I can totally see this as like a 20-minute short film with a cute little story and everything. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Long ago, in a colorful forest filled with lush green trees and sparkling waterfalls, all the animals lived together in peace and harmony. There was an old wise turtle, a timid but curious squirrel, a daring and playful fox, and a grumpy yet kind-hearted young bear. They were all best of friends and spent their days playing and exploring the forest. And met one day, the old wise turtle noticed that the usually overflowing river had become shallow and the water holes were drying up. "We need to find the source of the problem before it's too late," he said gravely. "I'm afraid we've entered the path of drought." The animals looked at each other, fear in their eyes, and without water they wouldn't be able to survive. The old turtle, being the wisest of them all, suggested they should go in search of a legendary hidden spring deep in the mountains. It was said that the water from this spring could save them from the drought. But the journey was long and dangerous, and the forest animals weren't sure if they were up for the task. After much discussion, the old turtle, with his knowledge and experience, the timid squirrel, with his quick reflexes and keen eyesight, the daring fox, with his speed and cunning, and the stubborn young bear, with his immense strength, decided to set out on the journey together. Each of them had something unique to offer, and they hoped it would be enough to help them on their quest. As they ventured deeper into the mountains, the forest became darker and more menacing. Lush green gave way to bare, gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers against the gray sky. But the animals pressed on, their determination to find the hidden spring fueling their steps. They soon came across a raging river blocking their path. The old turtle suggested they look for a way to go around it, but the forest was dense and it was hard to find a way. Just when they were about to give up hope, the squirrel, who was always paying attention to his surroundings, noticed a narrow ledge that went around the river. Carefully, he led the way, his small size allowing him to navigate the tricky path with ease. On the other side of the river, the animals came across a steep canyon. The sides were too high and slippery to climb, and there was no bridge in sight. The young bear wanted to charge ahead and find another way, but the old turtle suggested they wait. Looking around, he spotted some vines that grew from the top of the canyon wall. With his sharp teeth, the bear easily pulled down the thickest vines, which they used to make a rope cart. Then, taking turns, they slid down the canyon, one by one, and soon found themselves on solid ground once again. As they continued their journey, the animals began to understand the importance of each other's strengths. The old turtle's wisdom and experience helped guide them through the forest. The squirrel's keen eyesight and agility allowed them to navigate tricky paths. The fox's courage and cunning helped them overcome obstacles, and the young bear's strength was crucial in times of need. Finally, after many days of searching, they found the hidden spring. It was nestled between two large rocks, shimmering like a jewel in the sunlight. The water was cool and refreshing, just what they needed to save the forest. As they made their way back home, the animals were filled with a sense of accomplishment. They had faced many challenges and had learned to rely on each other's strengths. They realized that even the smallest voice matters and that true strength lies in unity and kindness. From that day on, the animals continued to live in harmony in the colorful forest, always remembering the importance of working together to overcome any challenge that came their way. The forest thrived, the river flowed, and the animals lived happily ever after, their numbers increasing until the forest was teeming with life, and the sound of their happy voices echoed through the trees. And that is how the legend of the forest's secret pact was passed down through the ages.
The grumpy old man sat on his porch watching the sunset when a young boy approached him. "Excuse me," said the boy. "Why are you always sitting on your porch in the evenings?" The old man looked at him for a moment. "It's just something I do," he replied, his voice gruff from years of smoking and drinking. "But why?" The old man sighed and looked out at the horizon. "There's nothing to see out there but water." "Why would you want to sit here and watch it?" the boy asked. "Because," said the old man, turning back to the boy with a twinkle in his eye, "every evening I watch the sun go down, and every morning I watch it rise again. And every time I do, it's a new adventure. It's a chance to start over, to be someone new, to do something different. The world is full of possibilities, my boy. You just have to be willing to explore them." The boy thought about this for a moment. "So you never give up hope," he said. The old man smiled. "Never give up hope. There's always something to look forward to, always a reason to keep going. You just have to find it."
If life gives you lemons, make lemonade. You've probably heard this saying before. This is a story about a little kitten who heard this saying one day. Once upon a time, there was a little kitten named Nick-Nick. He lived with his mom in a small house by the side of a road. One day, Nick-Nick's mom went outside to get some fresh air and see how their day would go. She had no idea that her life was going to change forever. While she was outside, she saw a woman holding a big basket. Nick-Nick's mom quickly went to say hello to her and ask if she could do something for her. "Hello, ma'am," said Nick-Nick's mom. "Is there anything I can help you with?" "Oh, hello," said the woman. "Well, actually, I'm looking for someone to take care of my rabbits while I'm away. Can you do it?" "Of course," said Nick-Nick's mom without even thinking twice. She knew she couldn't leave the rabbits alone. They needed someone to take care of them. So Nick-Nick's mom started taking care of the rabbits. Every day she played with them and fed them delicious food, and they all became best friends. But then something strange started happening. Every morning when Nick-Nick's mom woke up, she noticed that one of the rabbits was missing. At first, she thought maybe the other rabbits were playing hide and seek with her, but she soon realized that wasn't true. One day she decided to wait and see what would happen. So she hid behind a bush and watched what the rabbits were doing. She wanted to know where the missing rabbit was going every day. After a while, she finally saw where the rabbit was going. It was running toward the same road it had been hit by a car a week ago. Nick-Nick's mom was shocked. She didn't know what to do. She loved the rabbit and didn't want it to get hurt. She came up with a plan. The next morning, she took the rabbit with her to see what would happen. As they got closer to the road, the rabbit started running faster. Nick-Nick's mom followed after it and soon found out where it was going. The rabbit had been trying to cross the road, but it kept getting scared and running back when cars passed by. Finally, when there was no traffic, the rabbit dashed across the road and disappeared into a forest. Nick-Nick's mom was relieved that the rabbit hadn't been hit by a car. She knew it was just curious and wanted to explore the world beyond their yard. She also knew she couldn't keep the rabbit any longer because it belonged in the wild, not in a cage. So she said goodbye to the rabbit and returned home. When she told the woman who owned the rabbit what had happened, the woman was very upset. She couldn't believe her rabbit had been so naughty. She yelled at Nick-Nick's mom for not keeping the rabbit safe and told her she would never leave her animals with her again. Then she took the rabbit back inside her basket and walked away. Nick-Nick's mom felt bad. She had tried her best to take care of the rabbit, but it had still managed to escape. She knew she had to do something to make the woman happy again, so she came up with a plan. The next morning, she went to the market and bought all the ingredients to make a delicious pie. She baked it all day long until it was golden brown and smelled like cinnamon. Then she took the pie to the woman and knocked on her door. "Hello," she said. "Here's a pie I made for you." The woman opened the door and was surprised to see Nick-Nick's mom. "Oh, hello," she said. "That's very nice of you, but I don't need any pie." "But why?" asked Nick-Nick's mom. "You don't need to tell me why," the woman said. "Just go away." Nick-Nick's mom was confused. She didn't understand why the woman didn't want the pie. She had spent all day baking it, and she was sure the woman would love it. As she turned to leave, Nick-Nick's mom noticed something strange. There was a pile of dirty dishes on the woman's porch. She didn't remember seeing them before, but they must have been there for a while because they had already started to attract flies. Nick-Nick's mom felt bad for the woman. She knew she was busy, but she also knew she couldn't keep putting off doing the dishes. Otherwise, her house would become a mess. So, without thinking twice, Nick-Nick's mom started washing the dishes. She scrubbed and polished each one until they sparkled. The woman watched from the doorway, surprised by Nick-Nick's mom's kindness. She didn't know what to say. When the dishes were done, Nick-Nick's mom hung them up to dry and went home. She felt tired, but also very happy. She had helped the woman and made her house a little cleaner. She hoped that the woman would appreciate her gesture and maybe even become her friend. From that day on, Nick-Nick's mom and the woman became best friends. The woman even started leaving extra food for Nick-Nick's mom and the kittens whenever she went away. She also stopped yelling at Nick-Nick's mom and instead thanked her for taking care of her rabbits. Nick-Nick and the other kittens grew up and became healthy, happy animals. They lived in the small house by the road with their mom, who was the kindest cat in town. The saying, "If life gives you lemons, make lemonade," means that if you have a problem, you should try to find a solution rather than just complaining about your situation. That's what Nick-Nick's mom did when she found the rabbit in her garden. She didn't just sit around and complain about it, but instead, she took action and tried to figure out what to do with it. In the end, she was able to solve the problem and even make a new friend. If you ever have a problem, remember this saying and try to be like Nick-Nick's mom. Be brave, be kind, and never give up.
In a big city lived a little girl named Lily who loved to draw. She would draw on anything she could get her hands on, like this little chalkboard outside of her apartment building. But one day the building's owner saw Lily drawing on his property, and he told her she wasn't allowed to do that anymore. He said that if she wanted to draw, she should go to a park where they had those big white boards set up for kids to draw on. So that's what Lily did. Every day after school, Lily would run to the park and draw whatever she wanted. And at first it was really fun because there were no rules, and she had all this space to draw. But then one day she started drawing a picture of the park and the trees in the park and the slide in the park and the swings in the park. And pretty soon she realized she didn't want to draw the park anymore. She wanted to draw something else. But the only other thing she could think of was the chalkboard outside of her apartment building. She felt sad because she wasn't allowed to draw on the chalkboard anymore. So she walked over to it and looked at the numbers and letters that were covering it. That's when she got an idea. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and started drawing all over the chalkboard. Not numbers or letters this time, but lines and squiggles and swirls. She drew little pictures of flowers and trees and even a little house just like hers. It took her a long time, but eventually she finished her masterpiece. And when she stepped back to look at it, she was really proud of herself. Just then, some kids came by who were heading to the park to draw. When they saw Lily's picture, they stopped and stared. "Wow," one of them said. "That is so good. How did you do it?" Lily was really surprised. She wasn't used to anyone wanting to talk to her, let alone be her friend. But she was also really proud of her picture. So she told them how she made it. The kids thanked her and ran off to go draw their masterpieces. And Lily felt happy that she had made them happy. But then another group of kids came by and they started making fun of her picture. "What's that supposed to be?" "You suck at drawing," they said. And with that, they ran off to go draw at the park. Lily felt sad because these kids didn't like her picture. She looked at it closely and realized it wasn't perfect. The flowers weren't colorful enough, and the trees didn't have enough leaves, and the house looked nothing like hers. Just then, she heard a voice behind her. "I think your picture is beautiful," she said. Lily turned around and saw a lady standing in front of her. The lady had kind eyes and a warm smile. "Thank you," Lily said quietly. The lady looked at the chalkboard and then at Lily and said, "Why don't you draw me a picture?" Lily was confused. You want me to draw you? The lady nodded. Of course, she said. I'm your new art teacher. I saw you drawing over here and I couldn't help but smile. Would you like to come with me to art class and draw all the things that make you happy? Lily didn't know what to say. She had never had anyone ask her to draw anything before, let alone ask her to be in their class. I would like that, she said. And with that, Lily and her new art teacher walked hand in hand to art class. From then on, Lily drew every day in art class. And even though sometimes her drawings weren't perfect, she never forgot how good it felt to share her art with the world.
Deep in the heart of a magical forest lived a group of adorable forest animals. There was a brave lion, a curious squirrel, a wise owl, and a shy elephant. They were the best of friends and loved spending their days playing together. One day, they decided to have a picnic. The lion was in charge of bringing the food while the others set up the picnic area. But when it was time to eat, they realized they didn't have enough food for everyone. The lion felt bad because he had eaten it all. But the wise owl had an idea. She suggested they all share the food together and look after each other. So they all sat down to eat, and the lion felt much better knowing his friends were there for him. The moral of the story is to always share and be kind to others because you never know when they might need your help. The end.
The king was very worried. His son, the prince, was getting married, but no one had ever told him how to be a good husband. So on the day of the wedding, while everyone was celebrating, the king took the prince aside and said, "Son, today you become a man." He handed the prince a box. "Open this only when you're with your wife alone." Curious, the prince opened the box. Inside was a beautiful red rose. "Every day you must give her this rose. It will make her the happiest woman in the kingdom." But the prince was confused. "Father, why do I have to give her a rose every day? What does that mean?" The king explained. "It means that every day you must do something nice for her, something that shows you love and respect her." The prince nodded, understanding now. Every day the prince would give his wife the rose, and she would always be so happy. And after many years of marriage, their love only grew stronger. The king was right.
In a big city lived a little fire truck named Freddie. He dreamed of one day being a famous firefighting hero like the ones he saw on TV. But as we all know, being a little guy can sometimes have its downsides. And for Freddie, his size made it difficult to do almost everything. Like when he tried to take out the trash, he couldn't reach the handle. Or when he tried to put out a small fire in a building, he was too small to open the front door. So he ended up sliding underneath it and getting stuck. One day, while driving through the streets, Freddie noticed a crowd of kids gathered around an old tree stump that had caught fire. Finally, he thought, my chance to be a hero. But as he got closer, he saw that the local big trucks were already there, and they looked like they were having trouble putting out the fire. As Freddie approached, one of the trucks hollered out, "Hey, Little Red, why don't you go get some water from the hydrant down the street?" Freddie wanted to help, but he knew that the other trucks didn't think he was capable. But this time, he had a great idea. If they need water, then that means they need me. As he sped off to the hydrant, he turned on his siren and made it blare as loud as it could. The other trucks kept spraying their hoses until every last ember was out. And when they saw how hard Freddie was working, they realized that they hadn't been thinking right. "We could use some help," said the biggest truck. "Come on, Freddie, hook up your hose to our pump." And just like that, they were able to fill up Freddie's tank even faster than before. Then all of the trucks sprayed water from their nozzles together and put out the fire in no time. All of the animals and humans cheered for the little fire truck because he had shown everyone what he was capable of. From that day forward, Freddie wasn't called Little Red anymore. They all agreed that he deserved a much cooler name, and so they started calling him Captain Blaze. Once upon a time, in a kingdom not so far away, there was a royal ball being held in the castle's grand ballroom. All of the lords and ladies were there to celebrate, and Princess Penelope was the most beautiful of them all. She wore a magnificent gown that sparkled like 1,000 stars, and her hair was braided with silver thread and topped with a golden crown. But Penelope wasn't interested in any of the handsome princes who had come to see her. She wanted more than just a pretty face. She wanted someone who was brave, kind, and true. And she had heard stories about a dashing young knight named Sir Reginald the Bold. He was known throughout the land for his courage and honor, and Penelope longed to meet him. When Sir Reginald entered the ballroom, all eyes turned to him. He was tall and handsome, with shining armor and a noble bearing. Penelope's heart skipped a beat as their eyes met across the crowded room. She knew in that moment that he was the one she had been waiting for. As the night wore on, Reginald and Penelope danced and talked for hours. He was everything she had hoped for, and more. And as the first rays of dawn began to peek through the windows, they knew that they had found true love. They were inseparable from that day forward, and lived happily ever after. Once upon a time, in a faraway jungle, lived a little monkey named Milo. He lived with his troop deep in the heart of the rainforest, and even though he was just a baby, he was already causing mischief. While the other monkeys swung from branch to branch, Milo preferred to stay on the ground, where he could find all sorts of interesting things to explore. He loved to scamper around the forest floor, looking under logs and behind trees for bugs, leaves, and anything else he could find. One day, Milo's mother warned him to stay away from the edge of the jungle. "It's dangerous," she said, "and there are all sorts of wild animals out there that would love to make a monkey out of you." But Milo was curious, and he couldn't resist the urge to explore. So while his mother wasn't paying attention, he snuck away from the troop and headed toward the edge of the jungle. As he ventured further and further into unknown territory, Milo began to feel scared. The trees were taller and thicker, and he couldn't see or hear anything familiar. Suddenly he heard a loud roar and froze in his tracks. A tiger was standing in front of him, its teeth bared in a menacing snarl. Milo was paralyzed with fear and didn't know what to do. But then he remembered his mother's words. "Make yourself big and loud," she had told him, "and the danger will pass." Taking a deep breath, Milo stood up on his hind legs and let out a loud screech. The tiger was taken aback by the monkey's sudden outburst and hesitated for a moment. In that split second, Milo turned and ran as fast as he could, making his way back to the safety of his troop. From that day on, Milo never forgot the importance of listening to his mother and staying away from danger. And even though he still loved to explore, he always made sure to bring a friend along for support. Once upon a time, deep in the heart of a dark and scary forest, lived a little girl named Ilara. She lived with her family in a tiny cottage made of wood and stone. And even though the forest was full of danger, Ilara wasn't afraid. She was a brave and curious girl who loved to explore. One day Ilara's mother warned her to stay away from the Whispering Woods. "It's a dangerous place," she said, "filled with all sorts of scary creatures. The trees themselves are alive, and they lure unsuspecting travelers into their branches where they can never escape." But Ilara was curious, and she couldn't resist the urge to explore. So while her mother wasn't paying attention, she slipped out of the house and headed toward the Whispering Woods. As she ventured deeper and deeper into the forest, Ilara began to feel scared. The trees were tall and dark, and the branches seemed to be reaching out for her. Suddenly she heard a voice whispering her name. Startled, Ilara turned around, but she couldn't see anyone. The voice whispered again, this time promising her untold treasures if she would only follow. Ilara hesitated, but her curiosity got the better of her, and she started walking deeper into the woods. The trees grew thicker, and the shadows became darker until finally she came to a clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood a magnificent oak tree, its branches laden with sparkling gems and golden coins. Ilara gasped in amazement and reached out to touch one of the coins, when suddenly the tree rustled and a pair of glowing eyes appeared in the darkness. Ilara screamed and ran as fast as she could. making her way back to the safety of her home. From that day on, Ilara never forgot the dangers of the Whispering Woods, and she never went back to look for the tree's untold treasures. And now for our final story. In the whimsical town of Everglades lived a young boy named Finian. He lived with his parents in a cozy cottage, surrounded by a lush garden filled with all sorts of magical plants and flowers. One day Finian was playing in his garden when he stumbled upon a small patch of glowing mushrooms. They were unlike any mushrooms he had seen before, and he couldn't resist the urge to pick one and take it home. That night, Finian's mother was making her famous glow shroom soup, a delicious dish made with the very same luminous fungi. She had been planning to surprise Finian with the soup for his birthday, but he had accidentally ruined the surprise by bringing her a whole basket of glow shrooms he had collected from the garden. Although disappointed, his mother decided to make the best of the situation and taught Finian how to properly harvest and prepare the mushrooms for their special dinner. As the sun began to set, they sat down to eat the warm and savory soup. It was made with a rich broth and filled with chunks of glowing mushrooms, herbs, and spices. Each spoonful was a burst of flavor, and Finian couldn't stop himself from slurping up every last drop. His mother smiled as she watched him eat, knowing that he was enjoying the meal she had prepared. After dinner, Finian helped his mother clear the table and wash the dishes. As they worked, she told him stories about the magical properties of glow shrooms and how they could be used to make all sorts of wonderful things, from healing potions to enchanted pies. Finian's eyes widened with excitement as he listened to her tales. Later that night, as Finian lay in bed, he thought about all the fun he had that day. He had learned how to make his favorite soup from scratch, and he had discovered the amazing world of glow shroom magic. As he drifted off to sleep, he knew that tomorrow would bring new adventures and discoveries, and he couldn't wait to see what magical things awaited him in the whimsical town of Everglades.
Once upon a time, in the heart of a mystical forest, deep within an enchanted grove, where sunlight dripped through the leaves like liquid gold, there lived a colony of adorable field mice. These weren't just any mice, mind you. They were a merry band of adventurers, always eager for a good time and a hearty laugh. Their days were spent frolicking in the undergrowth, and their nights were filled with storytelling around their cozy nests. One evening, as the fireflies began their evening dance and the crickets chirped their sleepy tunes, the mice gathered close. It was Mole's turn to share a tale, an exciting story from his adventures above ground. But Mole had a confession to make. He wasn't much of a storyteller. The mice giggled, understanding that Mole was better at digging tunnels than weaving words. Suddenly, a young mouse piped up. "I know a story that will make your whiskers twitch with glee." It was Pip, the smallest of the litter, known for his insatiable curiosity and daring spirit. The other mice cheered, and Pip, puffing out his chest, began his tale. Deep in this very forest, nestled in a hollow log, lives the wisest owl you could ever meet. His name is Archimedes, and he knows the secrets of the stars and the stories held in raindrops. Pip paused for dramatic effect, his eyes shining with excitement. But Archimedes is very busy, so no one dares to bother him except for Ferdinand Fox. Now, Ferdinand isn't the cleverest creature around, but boy, does he have a nose for sniffing out trouble. The mice gasped. They all knew Ferdinand, with his sly grin and penchant for mischief. What could he possibly want with the reclusive Archimedes? Pip continued. Well, Ferdinand had a problem. He couldn't stop sneezing. Every sniffle and sneeze sent his whiskers flying and made his nose itch. It was driving him nuts. That's when he remembered Archimedes' wisdom. So off he went to seek help from the old owl. As Pip spoke, the mice watched intently, their little faces reflecting the flickering firelight. Suddenly, they heard a loud crash, followed by an angry shout. Startled, they looked toward the entrance of their burrow. Could it be Ferdinand? Was he in danger? The next morning, as the sun painted the sky in hues of pink and orange, the mice set out to find Pip. They searched high and low, calling his name, but there was no reply. Just as their hope began to dwindle, they spotted a tiny paw print in the soft earth. It was Pip's print. Relief washed over them. At least he was okay. Following the tracks, they soon came across a clearing where Pip had stopped. In front of him lay a small, intricately woven basket. The mice gathered around it, their hearts pounding. Slowly, Pip lifted the lid, and out popped a beautiful white dove. She blinked her large dark eyes at them, then cooed softly. "I found the smartest mouse who will help me," she said in a melodious voice. "He was kind enough to share his knowledge with me, but now I must be on my way." With a final wave, the dove took flight, disappearing into the endless blue. The mice looked at each other, confused. They had never heard Pip speak of such an endeavor. Had he been on a secret mission without telling them? Before anyone could ask questions, the forest floor rumbled. From behind a nearby tree emerged Ferdinand, his face ashen and his paws shaking. "Oh, dear friends," he exclaimed, his voice cracking. "We must listen to the dove's message. There is no time to lose." The mice were perplexed. What urgent message? Ferdinand, noticing their confusion, quickly explained. "You see, I went to Archimedes for help with my terrible sneezing fits. But instead of giving me a potion or a charm, the great owl gave me a riddle. A riddle about a special flower called the forget-me-not. He told me it can only be found at the Whispering Falls, deep in the enchanted glade." A shiver ran down the mice's spines. The enchanted glade was a place of mystery and magic, rarely visited even by the bravest of creatures. Legend spoke of playful sprites and mischievous fairies that made it their home. But what was Ferdinand doing venturing into such a dangerous place? Before Ferdinand could answer, a wise old squirrel named Hazel spoke up. "I believe I know the flower he speaks of," she said, her bushy tail twitching. "It grows near the falls, hidden among the moss and stones. But beware, it is guarded by grumpy badgers, fiercely protective of their den." Determined to help Ferdinand, the mice decided to search for the forget-me-not. But who would go with him? Pip volunteered without hesitation. Though small, he was brave and quick-witted, a perfect companion for the perilous journey. Hazel agreed to guide them to the falls, while Mole, despite his fear of the dark and gloomy places, chose to stay by Ferdinand's side. The journey was long and fraught with danger. They had to scamper over fallen logs, brave prickly bushes, and dodge curious beetles. But the friends stuck together, helping each other over every obstacle. When darkness finally began to fall, they arrived at the foot of the Whispering Falls. As the water cascaded down the rocks, it created a soothing melody that seemed to echo the beating of Pip's heart. All around them, fireflies twinkled, adding a magical touch to the enchanting glade. And there in a small patch of light, they saw it, the forget-me-not, with petals as blue as a summer sky and leaves that glistened like emeralds. But guarding it, as Hazel had warned, were two burly badgers. Their gruff voices boomed, "Who dares disturb the peace of our den?" Pip, remembering the dove's words, stepped forward. "I am here to seek knowledge, not to cause trouble. If you would be so kind as to step aside, I would greatly appreciate it." The badgers exchanged glances. They had never heard such a tiny creature speak with such confidence. Intrigued, they allowed Pip to approach the flower, but as he reached out to pluck it, one of the badgers lunged. "Stop right there," he snarled. "Why do you wish to take our flower?" "Because it is said that the forget-me-not has magical healing powers," Pip replied calmly. "And I needed to help my friend. Ferdinand Fox. Touched by Pip's tale of friendship, the badger's gruff hearts melted. One of them sighed, "Very well, little mouse. You may have our flour, but come back tomorrow and bring us some sweet berries from the sunlit glade. It is the least you can do for letting you pass." Relieved, Pip thanked them and quickly rejoined his friends. Together, they raced back to Ferdinand, eager to put the forget-me-not's healing powers to the test. When Ferdinand saw the flower, his face lit up with gratitude. "You truly are the best friends a fox could ask for," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Now let's hurry. Archimedes told me that the pollen from the flower must be applied during the first light of dawn for the remedy to work." After a restless night spent in the Whispering Falls, the mice awoke just as the sky began to lighten. Quickly, they collected the pollen and rushed to Ferdinand. As the first rays of sunlight touched his fur, they began the ritual. Ferdinand sneezed once, twice, and then a miracle happened. Instead of another sneeze, a beautiful white dove flew out from his den. "It worked!" Ferdinand cried, his eyes shining with joy. "I'm cured." He turned to his rescuers. "How can I ever repay you?" Pip smiled. "Just remember us when you tell your stories, Ferdinand." And so Ferdinand did. Whenever he sat by the fire, sipping hot cocoa with his family, he never forgot his adventure with the brave mice. He told them tales of their bravery, of their kindness, and how they helped him, not just with his sneezing, but also with something far more important, reminding everyone that even the smallest creature can be the bravest, and that true friendship is the most valuable treasure of all. So if you're ever feeling down or need a friend to lean on, remember the mice from the enchanted burrow, the wise Archimedes, the kind-hearted Ferdinand, and the beautiful white dove. And always keep in mind, no matter how big or small, we all have the capacity for great courage and kindness. As the forest creatures snuggled closer to the fire, listening to Ferdinand's tale, they couldn't help but feel a sense of warmth and belonging. For in that enchanted forest, deep within the heart of the Whispering Woods, there was a place for everyone and a story waiting to be told. And that, dear viewers, brings us to the end of our enchanting adventure today. We hope you enjoyed this magical journey alongside our beloved forest animals. Remember, no matter how big or small, we all have a story to tell and a place where we belong. Now, before we part ways, we'd love to hear your thoughts on today's heartwarming tale. Which character was your favorite, and what lesson did you learn from their adventure? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to hit that like button for more enchanting stories. Until next time, keep believing in the magic all around you and the dreams that light up your heart. Sweet dreams, everyone.
Once upon a time, in the heart of a lush green forest, there lived a little squirrel named Sammy. Now, Sammy was no ordinary squirrel. He was known throughout the woodland for his big dreams and even bigger imagination. Every day, Sammy would sit on a branch and gaze at the towering oak tree at the edge of the forest, dreaming of what it would be like to live at the very top of its branches. One sunny afternoon, Sammy decided he'd had enough of dreaming. It was time to start climbing. So he set off towards the oak tree, determined to make his dream a reality. As he scurried up the trunk, he met a wise old owl named Oliver who was perched on a nearby branch. "Where are you off to in such a hurry, Sammy?" asked Oliver, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. Sammy, without taking his eyes off the tree, replied, "I'm going to the top of this oak. I want to see what it looks like." Oliver hooted softly. "That's quite a lofty goal you have there, Sammy. Are you sure you can do it?" Sammy puffed out his cheeks and said, "Of course I can. I've always wanted to do this, and I'm not afraid of heights." And with that, he continued his climb.
As Sammy climbed higher and higher, the forest grew quieter and quieter. Soon, he was the only sound that could be heard. But just when he thought he'd reached the top, he saw another branch just beyond his reach. He took a deep breath and began to climb again. Meanwhile, down below, Oliver watched Sammy disappear from view. A worried expression spread across his face. Seeing how determined Sammy was, he knew he had to help him. So he took off and flew to the top of the oak tree where Sammy had disappeared to. A little while later, Sammy finally reached the top of the tree. But instead of the breathtaking view he had imagined, he found himself in a small, dark space between the branches. "This isn't what I expected," he said, his voice echoing in the small space. Just then, Oliver arrived. "Sammy, I've been looking for you," he said, his voice soft with concern. "Are you all right?" Sammy looked up at the owl and said, "I thought I could do it, but I was wrong. It's too scary up here. I want to go home." Oliver nodded understandingly. "It's okay, Sammy. It's perfectly all right to be scared. Sometimes our dreams can seem too big for us, and it's important to know when to take a step back." Sammy climbed down the tree, feeling a little ashamed. He had been so sure of himself, but now he realized he needed help. As they made their way back down the tree, Sammy and Oliver met a family of deer. The mother deer, whose name was Fawn, had a gentle, caring nature, while her two fawns were known for their playful energy. "Hello, Sammy," said Fawn warmly. "What brings you down from the top of Mr. Oak's tree?" Sammy explained about his dream and how scared he had become when he realized he couldn't do it alone. "Oh, Sammy," said Fawn, her eyes full of understanding, "it's good to have big dreams, but sometimes we need our friends to help us reach them. Would you like some help getting down, Sammy?" Sammy hesitated. Asking for help was hard, but he knew he needed it. "Yes, please," he whispered. Fawn and her fawns gently guided Sammy down the rest of the tree. And as they walked back to Sammy's home, they talked about how important it was to ask for help when you needed it. Sammy realized that with his friends by his side, he could do anything. When Sammy got home, he told his family about his adventure and how he had almost made it to the top of the oak tree. His mother, who was known for her unwavering support, simply smiled and said, "I knew you could do it, Sammy." Then she turned to the others and said, "Why don't we all go to the top of the oak together? We can help each other, and Sammy can show us the way." Sammy's eyes lit up with excitement. That was exactly what he had needed to hear. With his family's support, he knew he could make his dream come true. The next day, Sammy and his family, along with Oliver and the deer family, set off towards the oak tree. As they walked, Sammy shared his dream with them, explaining how he wanted to get to the very top. Everyone listened patiently, and when Sammy finished, they all cheered to encourage him. As they approached the tree, Sammy took a deep breath and began to climb. This time, he wasn't alone. The others were there to help him, and he could feel their support pushing him forward. Fawn and her fawns used their agility to leap from branch to branch, guiding Sammy to the next one. Oliver, with his sharp talons and keen eyesight, helped Sammy navigate the thickest parts of the tree. Sammy's mother stayed close by, offering words of encouragement and helping Sammy whenever he needed it. Together, they faced each challenge, and Sammy's determination grew stronger with each passing moment. Finally, after what felt like hours, Sammy reached the top of the tree. He stood proudly and looked out over the forest. The view was even more beautiful than he had imagined. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed through the trees. "Who's up there?" Startled, Sammy and the others peeked over the edge and saw a grumpy old elephant standing below them. "What are you doing on my tree?" he demanded. Sammy took a deep breath and said, "Mr. Elephant, we didn't mean to disturb you. We just wanted to see the view from the top of your tree." The elephant snorted. "Well, there's no view up here. It's just a bunch of noisy birds and creepy crawlies. Why don't you come down and see the real view?" He motioned with his trunk for them to follow. Curious, Sammy and the others climbed down and followed the elephant to the edge of the forest. There, they found a clearing with a small hill. "Go on, climb up there," said the elephant. "The view from there is the best in the whole forest." Together, they helped each other climb the hill. And when they reached the top, they gasped in amazement. The view was indeed breathtaking. They could see for miles and miles, and the forest looked like a patchwork quilt from up there. "Wow," breathed Sammy, feeling a sense of wonder. The elephant smiled, his tusks gleaming in the sun. "See, I told you it was better than the view from my tree. You can see everything from up here, all the rivers and streams and hills and valleys. It's a great way to see the world." Sammy turned to the elephant and said, "Thank you for showing us this, Mr. Elephant. It's an amazing view." The elephant nodded, his eyes twinkling. "You're welcome, Sammy. I'm glad you liked it. Now, why don't you all come back with me to my tree? We can have a picnic lunch and enjoy the view together." And so they all returned to the elephant's tree, where they spent the rest of the day picnicking, playing games, and enjoying the company of their new friend. Sammy sat on a low-hanging branch, munching on an acorn and watching the others play. He was happy. He had faced his fears, made new friends, and seen the most beautiful view in the forest. As the sun began to set, it was time for them to go home. Sammy and his family, along with Oliver and the deer family, thanked the elephant for his hospitality and promised to visit again soon. As they walked back to Sammy's home, they couldn't stop talking about their amazing day. Sammy had learned that with a little help and a lot of courage, he could achieve his dreams. He also learned that sometimes dreams change, and that's okay, too. That night, as Sammy snuggled into his bed of leaves, he thought about everything he had learned that day. He closed his eyes, knowing that tomorrow would bring new adventures and new opportunities to grow, hand in his heart. He carried the memory of the day he climbed to the top of the oak tree and made a lifelong friend.
You would not believe how many people we had to kill to bring you this video. Please do not sue us. We have no money. A teacher asked her students to write a story about a girl who found a magic lamp. A magic lamp that could grant her 3 wishes. The girl thought for a moment. She wanted to help her sick mother. She rubbed the lamp and wished for her mother to become a superhero with magical powers who could fly, run faster than light, and was also invisible. The mother was initially confused but soon embraced her new abilities. She became the fastest superhero in the world, helping the police catch criminals and cure sick people. The girl was very happy. She had helped so many people by wishing her mom to become a superhero. But she still had 2 wishes left. For her second wish, she thought of the poverty around her. She wished that everyone in her city could have enough money to buy whatever they wanted. Suddenly, every person in the city got $1 million deposited into their bank accounts. Everyone was happy. They were finally rich. But after a few days, people started spending all their money on unnecessary things, and soon they were broke again. The girl felt sad. She didn't want them to be poor, but she didn't want them to waste their money either. She thought long and hard about what to do for her last wish. Finally, she came up with an idea. She wished for everyone to become financially literate so they would know how to manage their money. And just like that, everyone in the city became financially literate. They learned how to save, invest, and donate their money. They started businesses, invested in stocks and bonds, and volunteered at charities. Soon, the whole city was full of successful people and organizations. The girl was very happy with her last wish. Not only had she helped her mom and the people in her city, but she had also made the world a better place. She knew that her wishes had made a real difference in the world. The girl learned that even small actions could make a big difference and that true happiness came from helping others. She also learned the importance of being careful when making wishes, as they could have unintended consequences. Overall, the girl's story was a reminder to always try to do good and to think carefully about the consequences of our actions. After reading the story, the teacher asked, "What did the girl learn?" One student raised his hand and said, "She learned that she could change the world with her wishes." The teacher nodded. "That's right. What else?" Another student said, "She learned that she should be careful when making wishes because they can have unintended consequences." The teacher smiled. "Very good." She also learned that true happiness comes from helping others. As the students discussed the story, the teacher couldn't help but smile. The girl in the story had learned some valuable lessons, and her journey had been both inspiring and cautionary. As the class came to an end, the teacher reminded her students that sometimes the greatest adventures came from the smallest of beginnings. And with that, the story of the girl who changed the world with her wishes ended. Now, outside the classroom, someone was waiting for the girl. When the girl came out, he gave her a piece of paper. "What's this?" the girl asked. "Your homework," he said. "I told you to write a story about a girl who finds a magic lamp." The girl looked at him in disbelief. "Are you serious? You said we could choose any story to write about." "Yes, but you chose that one," he said, handing her another piece of paper. "And this is your story." The girl took the paper and began to read. She read about a girl who finds a magic lamp, rubs it, and a genie appears. He tells her that he will grant her 3 wishes, but warns her to be careful with them. The girl thinks long and hard about what to wish for. For her first wish, she wishes for her mother to become a superhero with magical powers who could fly, run faster than light, and was also invisible. The mother was initially confused, but soon embraced her new abilities. She became the fastest superhero in the world, helping the police catch criminals and cure sick people. The girl was very happy. She had helped so many people by wishing her mom to become a superhero. But she still had 2 wishes left. For her second wish, she thought of the poverty around her. She wished that everyone in her city could have enough money to buy whatever they wanted. Suddenly, every person in the city got $1 million deposited into their bank accounts. Everyone was happy. They were finally rich. But after a few days, people started spending all their money on unnecessary things and soon they were broke again. The girl felt sad. She didn't want them to be poor, but she didn't want them to waste their money either. She thought long and hard about what to do for her last wish. Finally, she came up with an idea. She wished for everyone to become financially literate so they would know how to manage their money. And just like that, everyone in the city became financially literate. They learned how to save, invest, and donate their money. They started businesses, invested in stocks and bonds, and volunteered at charities. Soon, the whole city was full of successful people and organizations. The girl was very happy with her last wish. Not only had she helped her sick mom and the people in her city, but she had also made the world a better place. The girl learned that even small actions could make a big difference and that true happiness came from helping others. She also learned the importance of being careful when making wishes, as they could have unintended consequences. Overall, the girl's story was a reminder to always try to do good and to think carefully about the consequences of our actions. He smiled. "Not bad. You got the story right." "But," the girl began, "this isn't my story. This is the story that I wrote about." The man looked at her for a moment. "Oh," he said, realizing his mistake. "Then what's your story?" The girl took a deep breath. "Well," she began, and she told him the story that she had written.